Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about mealworms. I'm going to be showing you how I breed, how I maintain, and how I house my mealworms. It's incredibly easy. Anybody can do this. I don't even really do anything to this. They just pretty much take care of themselves once you give them a proper house. So you're only going to need a couple things. That is 2 tubs. You could use any type of tubs. This is like a critter keeper I got a long time ago, and this is like a little Sterlite box. I can't remember how they pronounce it. I drilled a bunch of holes in the top, on the sides, some oatmeal, that's what the substrate is, and mealworms. And toilet paper rolls, I forgot about that. Toilet paper rolls, egg cartons, anything to lay on top of the substrate, that'll work as well. You also don't have to use oatmeal. You could use wheat bran, cornmeal. I like oatmeal though because it's just not as dusty. Wheat bran's kind of hard to find. You can find it on rainbowmealworms.com, but I like oatmeal. So let's go ahead and get started with how I house these guys. So first off, you're gonna get a tub with lots of ventilation. The ventilation is not for the mealworms, it's simply for the tub. You're gonna have food in here like carrots, you could put apples, and if it's not a lot of ventilation, it could get moldy, nasty. That's why I gotta have ventilation. You don't have to have that much ventilation. I have just a couple air holes drilled on top of this, on the side of this little Sterlite container. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So once you get the container with ventilation, all you do next is you're just gonna get some oatmeal or wheat bran. If it's already ground up like wheat bran usually is, or cornmeal, you can go ahead and add that straight to the box. However, if it's not like oatmeal usually comes in like big flakes. I go ahead and get the oatmeal, I put it in a blender and I grind it up. Not too fine, I don't like it too fine. I do leave little chunks in there. And then I go ahead and throw it on in this about 1 to 2 inches, at least 1 inch. You don't have to do a lot, but 1 to 2 inches of the oatmeal, wheat bran, whatever have you. Then you could go ahead and add the mealworms. Once you add the mealworms, I usually get a bunch of like toilet paper rolls after you done use them, you know, and I cut them in half and I just lay them on top. You could use egg crates as well. Once that's done, you could add the food. You could add carrots. My favorite is carrots because it can stay in there for a couple days. I usually keep it in there for 2 to 3 days and then I replace it. You can use apples, you can use all kinds of things, honestly, oranges, whatever you want to use. Mind you, if oranges do get very juicy, if they eat it, you know, it's gonna make the oatmeal a little juicy. So my favorite is carrots. They eat the carrots very well. They'll honestly eat about anything that you put in here, really. I put it in here on top, as you can see, just like this. This is just a whole carrot I cut in half. There's like little bugs on this crawling around right now, already eating it. And then I put the little houses, I guess you could say, the egg crates on top of that. And that's all you do. That is a suitable house. Again, replace the food every 2 to 3 days. That's all you do. Congratulations, you're almost done. You got the house correct. Let's get to the breeding steps. The breeding steps are just as easy, but first let's talk about the stages of a mealworm. First, you have the mealworm itself, which is the classic worm. Then when they get to an adult turning into a pupa, they look like this. This is a pupae. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know, but this is the 2nd stage of life, or I guess the 3rd stage of life if you count the egg. After this, it's gonna be the beetle. This is the beetle they turn into. This is what lays the eggs. This is the final stage, and then they die. The reason you need 2 of these boxes is because once you put the worms in the box and they start turning into the pupae or pupa, I don't know how to, I forget it, don't worry about it. Once they start turning into the pupas, you're gonna take them out because they will cannibalize. The worms will eat the pupas. You're gonna take those out and you're gonna put them into the new box. This will be the beetle box, and they will eventually turn into a beetle. You don't have to worry about them cannibalizing each other, but you do have to worry about the beetles cannibalizing the worms. If it's not one, it's the other, you know what I mean? However, if you don't have a lot of like bearded dragons or chickens or whatever, you really don't have to worry about that step. And the step I'm talking about is the beetles will eat some of the baby worms, but they do lay a ton of worms. I start my breeding colonies off with about 500. I've only done it twice. Only 2, and I've had them for years. 2 breeding colonies start with 500 mealworms. It depends on how much you have. If you have chickens, I'd say maybe go like 2,000 and then just continue buying mealworms until they start breeding and you have a healthy supply to start feeding off. But to start a colony, I would say 500 mealworms. Leave them alone for a couple months until they finally start laying eggs and you start seeing baby mealworms. You'll see the baby mealworms. It'll be kind of hard at first because they are so tiny, but once you start digging around, you'll see them. Believe me, they will be there. But the step I'm talking about is when the beetles start laying the eggs and you start seeing the mealworms. A lot of people like to just remove the beetles and sift out the mealworms into another worm container, or like move the beetles over so that way they don't eat the baby worms. I don't do that at all. I just have 2 containers for once they start turning to pupas. I always put the pupas in 1 container away from the worms. And that's all I do. because the pupas do get eaten from the mealworms. They cannibalize each other pretty heavily. However, sometimes I don't do that at all. Like I said, this is so easy. Sometimes I just get lazy and I forget about it, and they still breed like crazy. This is a video of one of my containers that I just kind of was lazy about, and they still was breeding tons. I mean, it was so much, and I finally separated. But this is incredibly easy. Anyone can do it. Don't overthink. Like I said, you just get a bin that's good enough. You get another bin. Once they start turning to the pupas, you just move them over to a container. They turn the beetles. They lay the eggs. You can move the beetles into another container if you want to. You don't have to. They will breed, and they will give you baby mealworms, and you will have a lot. Trust me, with 500 mealworms, you can have thousands and thousands of baby mealworms on your hands. So that's why I say just go ahead. It doesn't matter if you take the mealworms out or the beetles out, because even if they eat them, you're gonna have so many. If you only have a couple of lizards or just like 1 or 2 chickens, it's gonna be a lot on your hands. But if you do have a lot of chickens and something like that, and you want to feed off like 100 a day to chickens, definitely move the beetles into another container once they start laying the eggs. To do that, all you do is sift it out. It's very easy. You can even, I've made a container to where you could cut the bottom off. I did it with one of these, but a little bit taller one. You cut the bottom off, and when you then glue some screen, some like little window screen, that's what I did, and then you just put it on top of there, and eventually the beetles will go to the bottom, lay their eggs, it falls through, and you don't even have to sift the eggs at all. Super easy, super simple, a great way, so that way you don't have to sift it, because I'm too lazy, I don't want to sift it. And that's pretty much all it is. Rinse and repeat. Very simple to breed mealworms. Most people run into the problem of the pupa stage. Is, like I said, they cannibalize and they don't ever get to a beetle. That's the biggest problem I see. Or they kind of breed slow, and that's probably due to room temperature. I keep these up high in my reptile room. It is currently 80 degrees in my reptile room. Up top where all the heat rises, it's about 83, and these guys breed way better in 80 to 90 degree heat. So if you have a garage that gets a little warm, throw these suckers in there. They're gonna love it. Anything past 90 degrees is kind of a little too warm. You don't really want to go past that. You can, but I'm telling you, once it gets to 100, it's going to cause, they're not going to want to, they're going to be lethargic, you know, it's going to be too hot for them. But 80 to 90 degrees is like a perfect breeding temperature. You don't want it too dry. You don't want it too moist, that's for sure. Like I said, this is just a simple setup. That's all I do. They breed for me. It's very easy. Anyways, that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I was of some help. If you have any questions, drop those down in the comments. I will see you guys next time.